Why is Nico Iamaleava? Why is he Tennessee's most important player? It's pretty darn obvious. He's the quarterback, and Tennessee, as far as depth, we reported earlier that Gaston Moore was considered to play last year in place of Joe Milton, who was struggling. But let's be honest, like most backup quarterback situations in the SEC and in big-time college football, Gaston Moore's presence is not sublime, not even close. And Gaston Moore is a guy that goes out there and does an awful lot of things and works hard for you, but ultimately it's going to have to be, I would think, Jake Merklinger would have to come out and play really well, or Tennessee would have a pretty significant fall off. What you would see if you saw Gaston Moore, and this is why Nico is so important and the number one player on our countdown, is I don't want to knock on Gaston Moore, but the whole defense is going to start to walk towards the line of scrimmage because he doesn't have the elite arm that Nico has. He can run an offense. He could go out there and probably win a Division II championship with the right team, but anything from Nico is a major, major drop-off. And I believe we're entering the time in college football is similar to the NFL, which has 45 players on its roster. If you lose the wrong guy, like Aaron Rodgers with the Jets last year, it's time to start thinking about next season. I mean, there's just not the depth that you would be able, when Brent Schaefer got hurt, they went to an Eric Ainge. I could go on and on. When Casey Clausen got hurt, did they go to a Rattay?
They went to Chris League or CJ League and then James Banks.
Leak or Sims or Rattay. But anyway, there was always somebody they had to go to. Dylan says, compared to Joe, Gaston is a solid quarterback. Compared to Nico is a different story. That could be a lead of one of my columns. So, yes. But I think that's the one disappointing thing to me is that it seemed like there was depth in the SEC, and there was no one guy that if you lost, the season was over. Now I feel like every team has 2 or 3 guys that they're thin in that position, and if they lose them because the transfer portal has spread out the wealth, it might be Katie bar to the door. This season's down the drain, and that's unfortunate, right?
Very unfortunate. I love because guys, we're doing Nico Iamaleava number 1 as if we haven't covered at length Nico Iamaleava's potential for Tennessee. So Dave decided, how do we talk about him in a different way in our countdown of most important volunteers? And he said, I got it. Let me trash Gaston Moore.
I didn't trash Gaston Moore.
So it's funny you brought this up because I actually wonder, and I think I've asked this to you, but I don't think we've really fleshed it out.
Good call on Stalin, Dylan. Good call on Stalin. Go ahead.
What'd you say?
No, Dylan made a good call on Stalin. He was a bad dude too. Go ahead.
True, but he was the MVP of World War II. I mean, he took out Hitler. So, I mean, he did take out Hitler. Whatever else you want to say, he got Hitler. So, I mean, what I was going to say about Nico was that, Dave, is college football and NFL for that matter. Let's just even talk NFL. Are we at a place with football where a star quarterback in football is more valuable than a star go-to player in basketball, given the impact they have on the game?
No. It's beyond that.
It's beyond. So, like, would you say Patrick Mahomes is more valuable than even Michael Jordan was to the Bulls? That's like the apex of both.
I think they're more comparable because of the lack of depth than ever before. I would have told you 10 years ago that a program like who did you name again?
I said like Michael Jordan with the Bulls versus Patrick Mahomes with the Chiefs.
Okay, like with Mahomes, I would. Oh, well, you're talking about NFL. I'm not talking about just the quarterback. Okay, I'm not talking about just the quarterback position. I'm talking about the college quarterback position. I believe it is similar and analogous to a star player in the NBA.
Okay, I think. Well, and the NFL is already there, though. I think is what I'm thinking. College is getting because you mentioned Aaron Rodgers. That's why I was curious about that. Okay, so going to college, it can still depend. Georgia. Let's be honest. Georgia can rotate quarterbacks in and out, and they are a national title caliber team, right?
Yeah, and not to sidetrack your point at all. Please stop me if I'm doing that. But what's the most impactful position in sports? I believe firmly it's a goalie in hockey. I believe that's number one. And then I believe after that, it's probably, I might be missing somebody, a star player on the NBA, like a Jordan, making an impact on their team. But quarterback, considering you have 11 men on that side of the ball, is pretty darn impactful. And let's not forget that they're looked to as the leader. Sometimes,
and it's the most difficult position.
Yeah, sometimes like the Anthony Edwards kid who's starring in the NBA right now, he doesn't have to be a leader right now. Well, Nico's expected to be a leader in college football 2024 or at least 2025.
Yeah, I agree. And I've always said that I think I've always said the difference in with the quarterback versus like a star player in basketball or a star goalie, you say in hockey. A quarterback can take a really bad team and get them to the playoffs. Whereas I've always said a star player in basketball can take a bad team and win a championship. But I'm thinking you're getting to a level with Josh Heupel's system. See, with the NFL, I'm there. College football, it depends on the coach and it depends on the system they run. I think Josh Heupel's system is very dependent on the quarterback being good and or being able to do certain things and also having the right fit. And I think Nico Iamaleava was created, like I've told you guys, if you found a quarterback created in a lab to run Josh Heupel's system, that lab would produce Nico Iamaleava. Honestly. So I think that's a big deal on this front. Now, going back in college football, I mean, is the first quarterback that you saw that where you thought if he goes down, this team is totally screwed? Was that probably Cam Newton?
No, it was Mike Vick.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Mike
wasn't
Vick,
even,
he got them to
wasn't
the
even close.
I'm thinking of national championship winners, though. I'm thinking of title winners.
Oh, my gosh. So that team didn't deserve to be there. They didn't deserve to play for it.
No, I agree. Who's a national
I actually think
team?
that Mike Vick had as big of an impact on Virginia Tech, considering their talent level and Auburn's talent level, as Cam Newton had on Auburn.
I agree. I'm saying teams that won the title. Actually, it's Vince Young. It's Vince Young. I would say Vince Young. If Vince Young is not there, Texas isn't winning the title. That's fair to say, right? They're an 8-4 team that year without Vince Young, aren't they?
Yeah, but what quarterback wouldn't?
Travis is saying Tim Tebow, but Travis, that's not true. If Tim Tebow got hurt, Cam Newton was going to go win that national title. He was Florida's backup that year. So,
yeah, but he was also selling laptops.
I know, but not on 2008. In 2008, he was on the team, and
the biggest one-man show. Dylan's on fire today. The biggest one-man show, and I've talked to guys who are in their 70s, and they say the only comparisons Archie Manning was Johnny Manziel. If you want to talk about the biggest one-man show, now, he didn't give you any leadership, I wouldn't imagine. Does he? Probably not. But if you want to talk about a one-man show and what he brought to his team, how many of those Texas A&M guys can you even name nowadays besides Johnny Manziel?
No, I know. I'm thinking one-man show national champions, though. One-man show, you're right. There have been more one-man shows that haven't won titles. Michael Vick, Johnny Manziel. There was... I mean, I'm trying to think of Michael Vick, Johnny Manziel were probably the top two. But, yeah, I would, in terms of national championship one-man shows, we're talking Vince Young, Cam Newton, and, I mean, is that it? Between the two of them? I mean, Joe Burrow, as elite as he was, that whole team was elite, right? That whole team was loaded with talent. Not to take anything away from Joe Burrow, because he was incredible that year. Can Nico Iamaleava, I don't think is going to be a one-man show, but do you think he could have this type of transcendent year? Since we're getting back to him.
He won't have to be a one-man show because Tennessee can run the football, but I don't know. I don't think he's the top of Cam Newton, the top of Mike Vick, elite runner that would be a one-man show on a poor team. But that doesn't mean neither would Joe Montana. Okay, but Joe Montana was one of the greatest quarterbacks I ever saw. So I'm not knocking Nico, but to me, he's different. Yeah, they're different. I mean, message board, do you see what I'm saying? I mean, he's not like Cam or Mike. He's more conventional, which is what they want.
Right.
I mean, let's face it. Mike Vick, that was back in the day. I'll never forget Randall Cunningham, the old Eagle, being interviewed. They said their offense consisted of run around, make 5 plays, and the defense will win the football game. That's kind of what Mike Vick was. Now,
that is what he was.
Yeah. Now, Cam Newton was actually used in an offense, but not to the extent of Nico's going to operate within the offense. He'll make plays with his legs, but it's not going to be 3 or 4 times a quarter.
But we can say that if Nico goes down, I mean, you're talking about, I think, national championship contender in Tennessee, and people think I'm crazy for this, but I think they can contend this year, and I think they expect to. You're talking 8-4, 7-5, maybe if Nico goes down, right? Versus 11-1.
I tell you, Dylan's throwing heat though. Maybe the best MVP I ever saw, even though they didn't win a championship, was Bryce Young. His last
year.
Yeah.
When everybody got mad at me because Bryce Young and Hendon Hooker won the game, but I'm like, Bryce Young was the better quarterback in that game for anybody who watched it.
Bryce Young was the best quarterback walking the face of the earth that weekend, the way he played. And I'm counting the NFL guys. The way he played that day on that weekend, he won the quarterback derby.
Tennessee
beats Alabama by 14, 18, 20 points. If not for Bryce Young.
Oh, I totally agree. Here's a big one. Dave, here's the most underrated one-man show of all time. And no one ever remembers him. But it's the whole reason Rich Rodriguez didn't go to Alabama. Pat White. Remember Pat White at West Virginia?
Covered Pat White. Yep.
Remember, West Virginia's going to the title game if he doesn't get hurt 2 games that year. And I'm just saying that was a huge one. Nico won't be a one-man show. But can Nico be a guy that, like, again, like, let's take Cam Newton to Auburn. Cam Newton's not on that team. They're 7-5, right? They went from 7-5 to national champions.
8-4.
8-4 to national champions. Can Nico have that level of an uplift on Tennessee?
Yes.
I think he can.
Yes. From a 9-3 team to a national championship team?
I think 8-4. I think maybe. Look, where does Tennessee go if Nico's hurt? How good do you think they do with Jake Merklinger at quarterback?
You know, I think they would actually be okay. I think they could win 9 or 10 games. But I think with Nico, I'm thinking 10 or 11. So significant. A 2-game difference. Do you want me to quantify it?
You only think he's a 2-game difference? I think he's like a 4 to 5.
I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen the guy, and they return a ton on offense, so he would be stepping into a good position.
Yeah, he would be stepping into a good position. I can actually give you that, but it's.
But I hate.
This is why I'm thinking national championship, guys. Nico is that good to me.
I hate to tell you, they probably play Gaston more. I don't know that Merklinger's the guy, and then he probably transfers in December. Why don't you just take a second, Caleb, if you can, and paint the worst possible picture that could happen in this football season? What is that? Nico injured, and then they're playing Gaston Moore, and Merklinger transfers? Way to go, Caleb.
Nico and Cooper Mays get injured. Then the whole offense is done.
I'm going to mute your mic. That's exactly what I'm going to do.